Like many historical photos from Chicago, nothing from these images still exists. Everything, and I do mean everything, that you see in these photos has been bulldozed and forgotten. This area of land may seem cursed today, but its history reveals vibrant communities that contributed significantly to Chicago's early growth. Before Cabrini-Green, this land hosted a tapestry of immigrant communities struggling against the odds. Initially settled by Irish immigrants in the 1850s, this area along the Chicago River earned the nickname Kilgubbin. The Chicago Tribune, in an 1865 article, paints a vivid picture. These are the patches where the sons of the Emerald Isle have squatted, built their 7x9 shanties, reared their offspring, and bred their extensive droves of geese, hens, cows, dogs, and cats. As Chicago boomed into a metropolis, immigrants from Sweden, Germany, and other parts of Europe joined the Irish in what was also known as Swedetown and the Cabbage Patch. The neighborhood's diversity and challenges were chronicled in the Standard Guide to Chicago from the late 19th century, which described the area as crowded with factories and populated by hardworking immigrants seeking opportunity amidst the smoke of industry. By the late 19th century, the neighborhood earned the infamous moniker Little Hell. The Chicago Tribune reported in 1875 every night a patrolman would come in from the station to subdue a riot. Little Hell was a terror district for several years after the fire, and many a bloody murder was committed within its precincts. The arrival of Sicilian immigrants in the early 20th century brought a new chapter to this evolving neighborhood. Known as Little Sicily, it became a cultural hub despite its challenges. The Chicago Tribune noted in 1920, the streets of Little Sicily are alive with the aroma of fresh bread and the chatter of a community rebuilding its dreams amidst the remnants of poverty. Men often worked in nearby factories and industries along the Chicago River, while women managed households under difficult circumstances. Children played in streets that were often unpaved and overcrowded, mingling with others from diverse ethnic backgrounds. Religion played a central role in community life. Churches like St. Philip, Benzine, and Little Sicily provided solace and community cohesion. Gangs, fueled by economic deprivation and ethnic tensions, occasionally clashed over territory and resources. The Chicago Tribune reported in 1901, riots erupted in Little Hell as rival gangs fought over control of local businesses and gambling dens, leaving the community in fear and disarray. Politically, the neighborhood's fate was often tied to broader debates on urban poverty and segregation. Little Hell stands as a stark reminder of our city's failure to provide adequate housing and opportunity for its most vulnerable residents. This era of resilience and struggle sets the stage for the neighborhood's next transformation, a story of urban planning, housing policies, and social change that would reshape Cabrini-Green into what it became and eventually what it would no longer be. Like many ambitious urban projects, the story of Cabrini-Green begins with hope and promises of a better future. In the early 1940s, amidst Chicago's rapid urban expansion, policymakers proposed the construction of public housing to alleviate overcrowding and improve living conditions for the city's growing population. The decision to build Cabrini-Green was rooted in post-war optimism and a desire to provide affordable housing. It was part of a nationwide effort to address urban blight and slum conditions. Plans for the Cabrini-Green homes promised to transform the landscape of Chicago's near North Side, offering modern amenities and spacious apartments to thousands of low-income families.
It's a total of 3,600 units. And the reason why they were built in these mid-rise and high-rise buildings is they reflected a European modern design by a very kind of famous architect, Le Corbusier, who really suggested that these sleek modern buildings that, could create density for people to live, really stacked on top of each other.
Initially, Cabrini-Green was hailed as a beacon of hope for its predominantly African American residents, many of whom were moving from overcrowded tenements. The development's modern architecture and promise of community facilities offered a stark contrast to the squalor of the neighborhoods it replaced. Chicago Defender in 1950 described it as a vibrant community where families found stability and opportunities for their children. However, as the 1960s unfolded, so did challenges for Cabrini-Green. Economic decline, social unrest, and changing urban dynamics began to take their toll. By the 1970s and 80s, Cabrini-Green gained notoriety as one of America's most dangerous neighborhoods. Chicago Sun-Times in 1981 ran headlines like "War Zone, Life in Cabrini-Green," depicting a community besieged by poverty, violence, and neglect. Efforts to rejuvenate Cabrini-Green faltered amidst bureaucratic red tape and political indecision. As the neighborhood deteriorated, residents felt trapped in a cycle of poverty and crime, with few opportunities for escape. Cabrini-Green became a symbol of failed urban policy. Decades of disinvestment and social isolation created conditions where hope was scarce and violence was rampant. Once touted as a solution to Chicago's housing crisis, it had descended into one of America's most notorious housing projects, for all the wrong reasons. The Chicago Tribune in 1973 chronicled the challenges faced by Cabrini-Green residents, reporting on dilapidated buildings, rampant crime, and inadequate public services. It was a stark contrast to the promises made decades earlier. Families navigated crumbling infrastructure, unreliable utilities, and overcrowded schools. In 1985, the Chicago Defender described it as a neighborhood besieged by violence and despair, where hope was a rare commodity. Gang violence was a constant threat in Cabrini-Green. The Chicago Sun-Times in 1989 ran headlines like "Blood on the Pavement," "Gang Wars Grip Cabrini-Green," detailing turf battles that claimed innocent lives and terrorized residents. Reverend Jesse Jackson, during a visit to Cabrini-Green in 1983, spoke out against the neglect, saying, "We cannot allow our children to grow up in these conditions. Cabrini-Green is a symbol of our city's failure to protect its most vulnerable." Political leaders debated the fate of Cabrini-Green throughout the 1990s. Mayor Richard Daley, in a 1996 address to the City Council, acknowledged the failures of public housing policies, stating, "We must tear down these walls of neglect and build anew. Cabrini-Green cannot be a monument to our mistakes." In 1999, demolition crews began dismantling Cabrini-Green, a symbol of hope turned symbol of despair. As bulldozers cleared the way for redevelopment and another new beginning for the neighborhood, questions lingered about who would benefit from these changes and whether history would repeat itself. The next steps for the neighborhood seem to be gentrification. The only thing you'll find today are empty green lots and new developments.
Right now there's about 19 acres of vacant public land that's still open and available for development on about 6.5 city blocks. A lot of what's been built there, kind of the new design of mixed income communities, which
the only thing remaining today are a few row houses built in the 1940s. First thing to come of Cabrini-Green, now the last to remain.